Hey, what's up, homies? It's your boy Johnny Rook, and this is the 0Fucks to Give show. I've got a lot of bullshit to show you, so let's get started. So check it, homies. Apparently in Israel, hundreds of ultra-Orthodox Jews were tussling with the Jerusalem cops because they were pissed that a song contest was desecrating the Jewish Day of Rest. And I don't know what the fuck that means, but they were blocking streets, they were shouting shit, and they were attacking the officers responding to the scene until a small group of women held a counter protest by taking off their shirts, eh? But don't get too excited because they only stripped down to their bras. But it caused the protesters to go elsewhere because evidently Orthodox Jews live by strict modesty codes and are forbidden from looking on immodestly dressed women and shit. And what a fucking shame, man. Like, I can't imagine living a life like that. As much of a horn dog as I am, shit, I love looking at boobs and butts, yo. And I would have to be stoned by rocks, not by weed. That's how they used to do it in the Bible and shit. Because fuck it. I would rather go to hell than not get to enjoy peeking at boobies and butts from the corners of my eye. Because who wants to get me too, right? Anyway, speaking of religious fucking lunatics, it turns out that the creators of the Ark Encounter, you know, a supposedly life-size replica of Noah's Ark from the Bible, the one with all the animals inside, including velociraptors, as if no one's seen Jurassic Park. Yeah, that Ark Encounter. Well, it looks like it suffered some damage due to heavy rain, and they are suing their insurance companies for damages, calling the rain an act of God, eh? And I know what you're thinking. So what? And I'm telling you, it's Noah's Ark, eh? Isn't heavy rain and flooding what it was fucking built for? Like, how do you expect your insurance company to take you seriously when what they're insuring was built to withstand an act of fucking God, eh? I tell you, homie, some people's kids, eh? Y para acabarla de chingar, these two pendejos from Texas thought it would be a brilliant fucking idea to Evel Knievel their car over an open drawbridge, eh? And as I'm pretty sure you can tell, it wasn't a brilliant idea because the car didn't make it over the bridge like on the Dukes of Hazzard. Instead, that bitch fell into the water and the two pendejos drowned. Like, I hope they didn't have kids because while I feel for the families, pendejo DNA needs to be weeded out of the gene pool, eh? I'm pretty sure this wasn't their first pendejada, and I'm surprised they survived this fucking long, which just goes to show you, it just might be reasonable that God watches over children and pendejos, except on this day. Órale, you know what fucking time it is. It's time to listen to Mr. Dick Move try and white-splain some more bullshit as if we're all pendejos. Dick.
Thank you, Johnny. Now I know you liberals are crying that Mr. Trump is acting like a dictator. and that he wishes to be a totalitarian ruler. But nothing could be further from the truth. Listen to Mr. Trump's own words about the world's current despots, and it all becomes clear. Just because Kim Jong Un is the head of a country, and he's the strong head, doesn't mean that Mr. Trump wants to be a despicable dictator like Kim Jong Un. All Trump said was, don't let anyone think anything different. Kim Jong Un speaks, and his people sit up at attention. We should have our people do the same. Besides, Mr. Trump gets along with him great. Kim Jong Un is great. They have a great chemistry together. And that's a good thing. Not a bad thing. And what's this madness of the fake news media confronting Mr. Trump with the fact that Kim is clearly executing people? Mr. Trump was right when he said that Kim Jong Un is a tough guy. You take over a country, a tough country, tough people, and you take it over from your father. If you could do that at 27 years old, I mean, that's 1 in 10,000 that could do that. And I know what you're thinking. What about Mr. Putin? I say, what about him? Putin says great things about Mr. Trump. So Mr. Trump is going to say great things about him. Mr. Trump already said Putin is really very much a leader. And sure, you can say, oh, isn't that a terrible thing? But Putin has very strong control over a country. I know it's a very different system, and Mr. Trump doesn't happen to like the system, but certainly in that system, Putin has been a leader. Far more than our president has been a leader, Obama. And when Putin says he absolutely did not meddle in our election, he did not do what they are saying he did. Every time he sees Mr. Trump, he says, I didn't do that. And we really should believe that. When he tells that to Mr. Trump, and that he means it. And when Mr. Putin was re-elected, after what the fake news media called a sham election, it was only out of respect that Mr. Trump called to Mr. Putin to congratulate him. Even though Mr. Trump's national security team gave misguided clear instructions not to congratulate Mr. Putin. And how can we forget Mr. Duterte? Mr. Trump just wanted to congratulate Mr. Duterte because Mr. Trump heard of the unbelievable job on the drug problem. Mr. Trump told Mr. Duterte during an April 2017 phone call that many countries have the problem. We have the problem. But what a great job he was doing. And Mr. Trump just wanted to call and tell Mr. Duterte that. Now the fake news media will tell you that many others who are not in Duterte's favor have also been killed, and that the U.S. State Department has noted in its most recent report that there were numerous reports that government securities agencies and their informal allies committed arbitrary or unlawful killings in connection with the government-directed campaign against illegal drugs. Killings of activists, judicial officials, local government leaders, and journalists by anti-government insurgents, and also unknown assailants continued. Fake news. And I know you've probably heard rumors that Mr. Trump wants the death penalty for American drug dealers, with one senior White House official telling a fake news outlet that Mr. Trump often jokes about killing drug dealers, and that he'll say the Chinese and Filipinos don't have a drug problem, they just kill them. And I say, what's wrong with that? And then there's Mr. Trump's good friend Xi Jinping. Mr. Trump told Republican donors at a Mar-a-Lago event that Xi Jinping is now president for life. President for life. And that he's great. And to look at Xi's abolishment of term limits, how amazing it was. He was able to do that. Mr. Trump thinks it's great, and that maybe we'll have to take a shot at that someday. Mr. Trump says that Xi Jinping certainly doesn't want to see turmoil and death. He doesn't want to see it. He's a good man. He's a very good man. And Mr. Trump got to know him very well. And finally, the fake news media would like to scare you into thinking that Mr. Trump wants more terms, just like Putin and Xi Jinping. And I say, what's wrong with that? Mr. Trump is a winner. America needs a winner like Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump ran one time and said, now we're 1-0. But it was for the big one. And now we're going to have a second time. And we're going to have another one. And then we'll drive them crazy. And maybe, if we really like it a lot, and if things keep going like they're going, we'll go. And we'll do what we have to do. We'll do a 3 and a 4 and a 5. We're going to have another one. And it's going to be great. Make America great forever. Back to you, Johnny.
Órale. I'm really beginning to hate that puto. I personally keep praying that the grifter in chief gets an aneurysm. But if anything is true, since he's still fucking America in the ass with his tiny skinny mushroom tip, there is no God. So let's cleanse our cerebral palates with some dank ass memes, eh? Let's start this off with James Baldwin. And I can't think of a better time when this quote is more relevant, because there is a shit ton of ignorance going around, eh? If you want to know how the fucking Nazis took power in Germany, and how an entire nation could let something so grotesque happen, ignorance, homies. Ignorance and hate. You know, a pinche culero who is good at conning people takes power and then convinces a small but powerful group that they are special and being attacked by an imaginary monster like the Jews or immigrants. And path to dictatorship begins. Never forget, homies, Hitler didn't take power immediately. He was elected and then slowly took power through the use of emergency acts and a complicit parliament or Congress. Sound familiar? Y mira. I know you're probably getting tired of hearing that this is the only planet we have and we should probably take care of it. But let me tell you, homies, the point of no return is not that far away. It's only like 10 or 15 years away. And once we cross that line, trust me, we are all fucked. And like royally super fucked. And órale, I remember this shit to be true back in the 80s, yo. Couldn't trust the government for nothing. And now we just give our information out like it's going out of fucking style, homies. Like, we still don't trust the government. But privately held conglomerates? Fuck it. We can trust them with our social security numbers, our identification numbers, our penis and titty size numbers. Fucking take that shit. Just give me my shit next day service, right? Well, homies, gotta tell you, after all that bullshit, I feel like having a drink too. So pour one for me and toss it back. Porque we're still over a year away from election day, and we're all going to keep getting fucked hard. So that's our show. We hope you liked it. Come back next week where I'll have more takes on the news that fucks with me and dank as fuck memes. I'm Johnny Rook. My goldfish is an asshole.
Hey,
good night.
Come and listen what I say. The captain is a tyrant and I no longer obey. I'm sick of taking orders from the madman in command. So let's drop him on an island and leave him in the sand. Cause it's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. ship. It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. It's a mutiny. And now we're taking over the ship. Shit. Ha, 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 ha. Hey, mighty captain, haven't you heard what's happening here? You're no longer in control, and we're drinking up your beer. This is now a democratic, egalitarian pirate ship, so enjoy your trip.